Follow the arrow. I usually have a hard time with horror. And so at the beginning, I see the blood in the sink, the dark, creepy music, um, the imagery, the dirty, grimy sink, and the washing the bloods in the hands. And I'm like, okay, something bad has occurred. This is about to be really scary. And then we kind of flash back to the crime, or what we think is crime. It's him chasing her through the alley. So this whole time I'm thinking this is slasher, this is slasher film, and this is the aftermath of the slasher film, and that's what I'm thinking, right? And then we see where where it begins, where he's a charming stranger, and I'm like, okay, how does this charming stranger at the bar turn into her nightmare? So when she ends up at this exhibit where she sees herself and her image in all these paintings, I'm thinking, okay, is this an obsession? Is this how it begins? Is this how a serial killer works? So this whole time, this movie has me thinking sort of one thing. And then I really loved how the art, which I wonder, I'm assuming was painted for the film, which is very impressive art. Uh, how it's like a dance like seduction between them in this art gallery, and how the images of the art represent the actual images of lovemaking that she's imagining. And you can start to see how something in the painting, even though it looks a little bit more torturous in the painting, is this beautiful image of lovemaking in real life. And it was all like a very big seduction. Now, I did not expect the Cupid, but then, okay, follow the arrow, it makes sense. And it's like, oh, is that what she's been running from this whole time? Love? Has she been running from love? So where'd the blood come from in the first place? Is the blood from the arrow? But then I just realized the blood was the paint. The red stuff was the paint. So, you're clever, clever.
Follow the Arrow was interesting because it definitely, in a weird sense, felt like a twisted version of a love story, in the sense that these are two people who technically fall in love, but it feels like neither one consents to falling in love. There's an outside force that is forcing them to fall in love, because it doesn't feel like love. It feels more of a lust, but even the lust doesn't feel consensual. It feels like both of them are very much drugged into this, which makes it feel more uncomfortable. Uh, all in all, it was very interesting.
Follow the Arrow rather, was really cool, very creepy, very weird, but all in kind of a fun horror movie way. This is the kind of horror, the kind of atmosphere and things like that I look for in horror movies, and I think that this one did a really good job of reaching that. The cinematography here is outstanding. The performances are all very good, and even the visual effects, near the end, they're all pretty solid. Nothing to really complain about there. The way that they use the sets and backgrounds, as well as some lighting choices throughout the film, they help to really clarify and really bring across that mood that I had mentioned earlier, and that's something that's present throughout the entire story. It's very consistent in being so visually appealing, but also narratively engaging, and also just fun to watch in a really weird, kind of unsettling way. This one was really good, and I liked it a lot.
Follow the Arrow was really interesting because there were like a lot of time, or not so much time jumps, but like reality jumps of what's real and what's not, and what's in a dream state. And it puts a lot into question, and I think you highlighted that really well with the lighting choices. I think it pushed the narrative along, and it set up each scene as individualized, if that makes sense, and it made it really really entertaining to watch, and it made what can easily be a kind of confusing premise more understandable. I think it's an interesting idea of these two meeting at a bar and continuing to meet, and you don't know what is real and what is not, and where these situations are happening, or if they're even happening at all. I think that's a really interesting concept, is like, a woman who dates. It's because those, it brings up a lot of different questions and fears, and I think you really tap into that, and you place it in this narrative that's relatively easy to follow and paced out really well. And I want to commend the actors for what they've done in creating these intimate moments on screen, while also creating a compelling and thrilling story. So really well done.
Follow the Arrow is interesting, a little confusing, borderline pornographic, softcore, which I wasn't expecting. I guess this is an evil Cupid that once he gets you in his arrow, he kills you. I thought the powerful opening scene with the guy with red on his hand was washing his hands of blood instead of paint, which makes it even more interesting. So, had a good story where two people meet in a bar and they end up meeting up several times, but they're not sure what's reality and what's dreams or fiction. Definitely poses the question of how borderline the two are.
These reviews for Follow the Arrow. This is an interesting approach to the love at first sight that we all know, and a very sensual one. The scenes are elegant and enticing. The scene at the art gallery with the paintings was thrilling, and I love the mysterious twist that ends up in quite an original story with great performances in beautiful settings, quite tantalizing. It is great. I enjoyed it a lot, and the mystery behind it is even more engaging. I really enjoyed it.